Hi friends, thank you for watching The Source, God's Answers to Life's Hard Questions. Perfect holiday for my slogan, see the light, be the light, and share the light. And that's what I want to speak about today, the power of light. Personally, I always wish that I could read the candle flames like the Kabbalists could. But their light remains a mystery to me, and they burn until they burn no more. And then the last day of Chanukah, when the last light goes out, and then there's a whisper of smoke. And that's all that's left, and it leaves me wondering, what happened to that otherworldly light that enveloped our homes and our hearts and our emotions for 8 days? Instantly life feels darker. It seems like the light takes with them their warmth, their certainty, and they're replaced by chilly, intimidating shadows and cold winters and despair. And then I remember the words of Isaiah. And the nations shall walk at your light. My fellow Jews, when the Chanukah is put back on the shelf, the torch has been passed to us. We ourselves are the lights that must live on once the holiday is over. We are the flames that must burn radiantly in our service to Hashem and with our faith in Hashem. Because it's only in the roaring, eternal fire called faith, it is only from there that we can extricate ourselves from the gravitational pull of uncertainty, of fear, of darkness, of assimilation, of anything. It is only in faith that we find the energy to keep going. Light is energy. This is the holiday of lights. But the holiday never ends if we don't let it, because the light is in our hands. It's interesting at this time of year. The nights, they start to get shorter, which means the days get longer and light begins to prevail. And it's this week that we read the parasha of Miketz. Miketz is like a sudden change, and also an end and a limitation. There's a few meanings to it, but it's in this parasha wherein Joseph is released from prison with great haste, like they say in Israel, chik-chak. Joseph, who once found himself in the darkness of a snake-filled pit into which his brothers had thrown him, and later he found himself in the darkness of Pharaoh's dungeon. Joseph could have chosen to give up. What truly did Joseph have to live for after being sold into slavery? His life was going from bad to worse. His brothers stripped him of his coat of many colors, taking from him his pride, his innocence, and the years he could have been living peacefully side by side with his father, who loved him so dearly. And in some measure, because when you take everything from someone, in some measure, you kill everything about them. Whether it's the best of them or the worst of them is a discussion for another time. But in some measure, they killed everything about him. Except the faith and the light of God that burned inside. Because luckily for Joseph, faith has no shackles. Faith has no taskmasters. Faith has no pits or self-pity. Faith sees only the light. And the Torah teaches us something very interesting about Joseph's attitude throughout his suffering. The dungeon to which he's condemned is called Beit HaSohar, the house of light. Even in the depth of a dungeon, of a dark dungeon, Joseph maintained his faith in God. He remained optimistic and hopeful, and he created his own light. It said that he was a dancing man. It was a house of light because Joseph himself shone. See the light, be the light, and share the light. That was the means of Yosef's survival. And it's the means of our own survival, if we'll just access it and walk into faith and walk into the light. We have to learn to do the same as we go through our own trials and our own tribulations with laser-like intensity, because we know laser can cure people with laser-like intensity. Keep faith shining until it cuts right through the dungeon wall. It's actually a sin to despair, to succumb to despair. And it's idol worship to believe that our lives are only worth living when we have it all, when we're riding high. Because then what are we worshiping? God or our money? God or our great health? God or our good looks? It's test, not easy. But we have to really take ourselves to task and ask ourselves, what is it that we are worshiping? Who are we serving? And do we live in faith, or is it just a convenient sentence? In the story of Chanukah, we learn how the golden temple menorah had been stolen. The golden menorah! And that there was only enough pure olive oil to last one day. The Maccabees didn't sit around lamenting the darkness, woe is me, or their circumstances. What they did was they made a cheaper metal menorah. And the one day's worth of oil miraculously lasted for 8 days. It didn't only last for 8 days because 2,000 years later, we are still lighting a menorah. It's a miracle that lasted because we are keeping the light alive. We are the light. If we would only stoke our souls and refine our faith and stop sinning. We have to understand that a Jew is like olive oil. We're like an olive. We're actually compared to an olive. When we're squeezed hard, we bring forth the purest oil. And it is through the pressing and through the cutting and the hardships and the pain and the darkness and the tears. That's when the best oil is extracted. We are a Jew. We are a light among the nations. And the test is to see the light through the hardships. It's interesting that the 25th word in the Torah is the word or. So, which means light. So the number 25 in Judaism is very closely associated with the word light. When God went looking for Adam in the Garden of Eden, he asks him one word question, Ayecha, where are you? But when you break that word apart, it is, where is the light? Where is the kaf hey? Where's the 25th word, the or? Where is your light? Have you lost it in sin, in despair, in heartache, in lack of faith, in the rabbis, in Judaism, in the Torah, and putting your faith in the wrong places, in the wrong lights? Because all that glitters is not gold. And even if it is gold, gold is also a false light. Are you putting your faith in the right light? Ayeka, where is the light? We can't give up. Because just as abruptly as Joseph's problems came upon him, they left him with equal speed. He was rushed out of the dungeon to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. And he went from being a prisoner to being the second most powerful man in Egypt. And not just in Egypt, in the world, because the whole world descended to Egypt in order to get food. And so, my friends, the trials and hardships inflicted on us are limited. And just when we think there's no salvation, it's just around the corner. It's one phone call away, one letter away, one email away, one cure away, one coincidence away, one interaction away, one blind date away, one more kindness, one more smile, one more getting through it, one more prayer. One more. And our lives can change. The power of one is the power of Hashem. Echad. Everything is in one. Hang in there for the one more. There's a season for everything in our lives, even the winters of discontent. And even though everything I just said is actually inspiring, I have to tell you, it's not even enough to have just faith in Hashem. It's great, we have to have it. But we have to give him reason to have faith in us. Joseph didn't survive Egypt simply because he had faith, because that would make him a positive thinker. That would make him Tony Robbins. He survived And he triumphed because God had reason to have faith in him. Despite all the influences around Yosef, he behaved like a Jew. And that's why he's called Yosef HaTzadik, a righteous. The righteous are what keeps the whole world alive. The 36 righteous people are what keep humanity alive and the world going at all times. That's why there's 36 Chanukah candles, representative of that, and representative of the 36 hours of pure light that God had when the world was first created. Because don't forget, the moon and the sun and all the luminaries were created on day 4. But it's on day 1 that God said, let there be light. It was a different type of light. It was a righteous light, a pure light, a sustaining light. It was a light that created all matter. E equals mc squared. Joseph survived because he behaved like a Jew. He preserved the light and he preserved himself. E equals mc squared. He maintained his unique identity. The most beautiful woman in the world. And he was a young man, we would imagine, with a lot of hormones, 18, 19, in his teens. The most beautiful woman in the world made daily advances toward him, and he did not succumb. Why? Because his father's face and all the moral teachings of his faith guided his conscience and his deeds. And just like the Maccabees withstood the temptations of Hellenism, Yosef withstood the influences of Egypt. Friends, till today, with all my Torah studies and all my want to be able to, I still can't read the candle flames as I wish I could. But at the end of the day, it's not my business. My job and your job is to look our faith in the face and be honest. If a Jew really had faith in God, would he work on the Shabbat? Because if he had faith, he would know that God will provide. If a Jew had faith, he wouldn't be scared to give charity because he'd be sure that God's charity will be coming soon to him in much greater measure. If a Jew had faith, he wouldn't dishonestly try and manipulate all the results in his life and make everybody he knows along the way a casualty, leaving wreckage behind just because they want something. If a Jew had faith, he would know that what's coming to you will come to you. A Jew of faith would do everything differently because a person of faith would let go and let God. He would try, but not over-try. And it's so interesting because in all our worldly affairs, in all of them, we believe that one hand washes the other. Yet when it comes to God, we are ready to collect with both hands and to serve with neither. My friends, the light is in our hands, and we have a divine mission to be the light by living with faith and living faithfully, to make all our dealings straight. Our faith mandates us to shine for the whole world to see, just like the light of the menorah. We can't keep it private, it has to be in a public domain. We are not destined to be dim, nor do we try to be in our success, in our wealth, in our show-off. We know how to shine bright in those areas. And that's because we're misusing the light. We're clinging to false lights. We're clinging to Klieg lights and those glow-out wands that burn out quickly and leave nothing but a piece of plastic made in China in your hand the next day. The lights that we are really supposed to be takes a little bit of crushing, takes investment. It's not easy to build a fire. But I think one great singer said, you can't build a fire without a spark, or you can't build a flame. Start with something small, whether it's Shabbat, keeping kosher, doing something a little more. Make the light, be the light, see the light, share the light, because, my beloved Yidden, we are the bearers of the light. And that's not our calling card. It's not our business card. It's not our calling card, it's our calling. Shabbat Shalom and Happy Chanukah.